Greetings, sports fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Emporia Sports Buzz.
You found the college edition.
Somehow, on your computer, you've done that. This is Jesse Newell, Gazette sports reporter, joined alongside, as I always am, by Michael, the man, the myth, the legend, Ashford. Michael, say hi to everybody out there.
You know, we don't talk about K-State and KU as much in the new format, but a couple of nice big wins for both those programs this last week.
21-point win for K-State kind of puts them on the map, I think, but that's not what we're here to talk about. At least originally, we're going to talk about Emporia State here. Like I said, this is the Emporia Sports Buzz where you turn to for all your information, jibber-jabber, whatever you want to call it. Just pretty much us gabbing at you, but it's pretty entertaining sometimes.
Let's get it rolling.
That's what my mom tells me. Anyway, let's talk about the Emporia State women first. The Emporia State women win 2 games, and I'll tell you what, Mike, they look like a different team since they started picking up the pace, picking up the tempo, and they really turned things around.
I just remember what you said after the game against Truman last Wednesday. You said, you know, the Lady Hornets that everybody expects around this area are back because of they've picked up the pace. They're kind of, I believe our headline was run and gun now. You know, an opponent makes or misses a basket and they're off running. And it just seems like the change of pace has helped them overcome the turnover programs, which are still problems, which are still lingering. But they're just finding ways to simply outscore teams now. Absolutely,
and like you said, this is the Emporia State team that fans have come to know. And we talked about how to kind of get them going. You know, Emporia State was not really right during that 2-game stretch where they lost to both Washburn and Southwest Baptist. But we said maybe tinker with the press a little bit. Well, we were on the right track. You know, what Brandon Snyder's doing now is just telling them to push, 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 push. Every time they get the ball, every time they get a rebound, every time the other team makes a basket. And right now that tempo is helping them. It's allowing them to use their bench. It's allowing them to tire other teams out, and they're a different team. It's going to be interesting to see how far this team goes with this new philosophy, because right now, Mike, I mean, they're making a lot of mistakes. Emporia State is turnover-wise, and it doesn't even matter. They're still beating teams by 10 points.
Yeah, and what stands out to me is that when you can bring, you know, a team or Ida Edwards off the bench, for instance, when you're bringing a player and an athlete like that off the bench, and you know, Allie Volkins in for Allie Renberg. I mean, you're bringing some players who have starting experience off your bench, and you have that kind of depth. You can run with any team in the nation just because you're subbing 5 in, 5 out, and that's, I think, is the biggest thing. Is they're just overpowering teams with their depth. They're just sprinting past them late in the later stages of the game, and like you said, it doesn't really matter anymore that they're committing so many turnovers. 29 this last weekend against Central Missouri. But still, it's not mattering. Yes, they'd like to get those turnover numbers down. If they do, teams better really watch out for what this team can do.
And like you said, I mean, I think sometimes Bill Self has also kind of been guilty of this and not using his bench enough, because if you can go 10 deep with quality players, you should probably try to do that. And Brandon Schneider has found that combination. He's found that, you know, Jamie Augustine is your 9th or 10th best player is better than anybody on the other side can provide as a 9th or 10th best player, because she's great defensively. She can shoot threes. I mean, even those role players are very, very good. And Brandon Schneider right now has found a way to get them in by pushing the pace, running past other teams. And right now, this team, I'm not going to say unstoppable, but they look like they could go on a roll here through the MIAA if they keep that pace up and they keep playing like they've been playing right now.
Like I said, if they get their turnovers problems solved, or not even solved, just maybe corrected a little bit, this team is going to be one tough matchup for any team in the MIAA. That includes Washburn, that includes Southwest Baptist, that includes Northwest Missouri State. So many good teams the Lady Hornets would probably have a good shot at. The men, on the other hand, get a big, maybe season-turning victory this last weekend against Central Missouri.
We'll see what it does for them, but yes, Central Missouri has a 31-game home winning streak snapped by Emporia State, and really the Hornets didn't have much of a chance going into this one, at least from outside appearances. Emporia State gets down 21-8. You know, they can't shoot the ball through 14.5 minutes. They have 8 points. They start 4 of 19. Can't really start much worse than that. Emporia State just comes back. Doug Moore off the bench. Doug Moore, who would have thought Doug Moore? Doug Moore really gives them a spark. Has 4 blocks in the final 8 minutes of the half. Actually, it's the final 6 minutes of the half, and really becomes a defensive presence for them. Once he steps up, everybody else gets going. Emporia State wins the game in overtime. Maybe one they stole and shouldn't have won. We'll see how they respond from this one, because right now the biggest issue for them was last time they had a big injury go down, they lost big, and it kind of went on a bad stretch. And they've got Westbrook going down again. He's got a foot injury. He's going to be out for a little while. We'll see how this team responds. They got some confidence, but I know it's not the news they want to hear with Westbrook going down and getting injured, and he could be out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's nice, though, that you get a contribution like Doug Moore off the bench. You know, I was sitting over at Wyatt Auditorium covering the Flint Hill Shootout, and I see your game update online that it's 21-8 and think, oh my gosh, Emporia State's is in for a bad day. The next time I update the website, they're leading at half 27-26, and where in the world did this come from? It sounds like Doug Moore really gave them a huge spark off the bench. They're going to need him to now maybe step up and play more minutes like that with Westbrook out. I mean, Westbrook only scored 10 against Central Missouri, but still, I mean, you cannot devalue his leadership and what he brings to the court. Somebody else that the other team has to guard all 40 minutes of a basketball game.
What he did was give them energy, and that's really what Doug needed to come in and do. Defensively, they needed help inside. They needed to get some stops on their big men. And kind of like I told somebody after the game, I said, if he can be half of what Ed Daisy was last year for them, because Ed Daisy was a shot blocker, a defensive guy, and made open shots every once in a while. If he can be half of that, if he can just play defense, spare Jordan 15 some minutes, spare Caleb Tegmeyer some minutes, not get those guys fouled out at the end, he can be a great contributor for Emporia State this year. And really, he played his role perfectly. He was the MVP for them. I know DeAndre Townsend scores a lot of points down the stretch. Marvin Lee has a great game, but Doug Moore won that game for him. And if he can give them quality minutes like he did in that game, Emporia State can be a much, much better team because of it.
The pressure certainly now, though, mounts on DeAndre Townsend, guys like Caleb Tegmeyer, to up their scoring even more. With Westbrook being out, it looks like a little bit longer than when he had his hurt thumb. But kind of an iffy situation, but Coach Mo seems genuinely excited to see how his team responds to this adversity this time around rather than the first time.
I think his team, he thinks, has something to prove, and like you said, he really is excited about this challenge. Not sure he should be, but we'll see how their offense kind of responds to, this latest adversity, because, right now they're really dependent on a few guys to score points, and Westbrook was their second leading point scorer, so we'll see if the Marvin Lees of the world step up. Like we said, Jordan 50 and Caleb Tegmeyer, we're going to need all those guys to step up and try to fill that role, because not only did Westbrook help them offensively, he was their best defender, steals-wise, and getting them easy points in transition. So they've got a tough challenge ahead. The good news for them, they've turned the season around, and with as crazy as the MIAA is right now, 3-3 in the conference, they're tied for third. So, they were looking at a couple weeks ago, 2 games ago, where they might not make the MIAA tournament, being the 9 or 10 seed. Now they're tied for third. They're looking at a top spot in the MIAA. They can still salvage the season. They can still be up there and even be in, potential NCAA playoff spot. It's all there for them. It'll be all how they adjust to this latest adversity.
Real quick, Jesse. A few words about KU. Can anybody stop KU this year?
Oh, somebody will. I mean, they'll lose eventually, and they've been going under the radar because of their football team and because of North Carolina and Memphis's play, which is just fine with Coach Bill Self. But they played very well, and I didn't get to see the game against Missouri. Pretty much nobody did in this area, but they have their weaknesses. KU will lose. I don't think they're going to go undefeated during the season. I think that's kind of getting thrown around a lot because the Patriots make it look so easy. But we'll see with KU. The real test is going to be in March. That's what you get remembered for. And can this team make a Final Four and get to where Bill Self hasn't gotten before? We'll see with that. A few words on K-State, Mike. I know you're happy.
K-State fans got to be happy knocking off a top 10 team at home. Yes, Texas A&M was coming off a loss at Texas Tech earlier in the week, but still, just the way that K-State shut down Texas A&M and all its weapons, especially on the defensive end. The story wasn't K-State's offense. The story was K-State's defense and how good it looked, especially in that second half. 2 weeks ago when this team just got pounded by Xavier up in Cincinnati, not a lot of people had very high hopes for this team. Right now, they're one of only 3 teams in the Big 12 who have an undefeated conference record. KU and Baylor are the only 2. Baylor coming out of nowhere, but K-State set itself up nicely here to perhaps be 4-0 going into that home game against KU in about a week. So, we'll see where things go.
As I said, big game coming up for both teams. So that KU K-State game at Bramlage will be a big one. I think that's all we got for this week. For Jesse Newell, Gazette sports reporter, and Michael Ashford, the man, the myth, the legend, we're going to sign off for the Emporia Sports Buzz. But before we go, Mike, we need some advice for all those college kids out there.
Keep the party at a minimum on Saturday night, because Emporia State actually plays on Sunday at 1:30. That's when the women start.
Keep the hangovers to a minimum. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.